In this video, I'm showing you the most effective lead generation workflow that we found in 2025. And this is fully automated. I'm going to show you the exact tools, the exact workflow, and all of the AI that we use nowadays in order to put lead generation on autopilot. Now, my goal is that by the end of this video, you have everything that you need in order to implement the system in your business. Now, caveat, this isn't another Apollo or Clay tutorial like you've seen before. This is actually very actionable, and I'll give you the exact blueprint and show you what we run in our companies. Now, why listen to me in the first place? Well, I've automated systems like this for hundreds of businesses already, and these have consistently generated tons and tons of leads and actually driven more revenue. And so without further ado, let's jump straight into it. The first thing that I'm going to show you is just a quick comparison of the easiest way of doing lead generation versus the best way of doing lead generation. And the one thing that I want you to keep in mind as I'm showing you this is that best becomes the easiest once automated. So I'm going to show you everything without the automation. Then I'm going to show you everything with the automation. And once again, best becomes easiest once automated. Okay. So let's jump into it. The first comparison we want to make is if we look in the easiest side, we want to be looking at having one tool that does it all, right? So we don't have to add any type of complexity, just one tool, one platform, everything happens in there. Now, in the best case scenario, we're actually going to combine multiple tools to just keep the best aspects of every single one of them, and therefore have more coverage and better results. Now, let's look at the easiest again. If you go for the easiest solution, which is having only one platform, you're accepting an 80-20 rule when it comes to your data. What does that actually mean? It means that very likely 80% of your data is going to be okay, and 20% on average is going to be somewhat irrelevant due to limitations of only using one tool and not double verifying or triple verifying everything that you have. Now, when we look on the best side of things, we're going to get only qualified and relevant prospects. Now, let's look at the consequences of using each of these versions right here. If we go for the easiest, we're going to have consequently a lower lead rate just because 20% or more of our list won't be the absolute best. And what I mean by absolute best is I mean people that may no longer work for companies like you would like them to, companies that are outside of the ICP, ideal customer profile that you're looking to target, or overall fake accounts that actually fall through the cracks when you're using databases or single source tools that can do everything from A to Z. Now, let's look on the best side. When you're using the best side, you tend to get the best lead rate possible when it comes to your lead generation perspective. Why is that? Because you're only contacting qualified, relevant people. And so always keep that in mind. Let's look at the consequence of doing that. On the easiest side, you're going to have poorer deliverability due to contacting people that will never reply to you and are more likely to report you as a spammer. Versus on the best side, you do have better deliverability because you're contacting the right people and you get more engagement and you're less likely to be reported as a spammer, which will help you if you're doing LinkedIn outbound, it will help if you're doing cold email outbound, and it will help your overall brand reputation if you're doing cold calls. So always keep that in mind. Now, advantages of doing the easiest method is actually that it saves you time. So you don't have to go ahead, use multiple platforms. You don't have to go ahead and overall spend a lot of time figuring everything out and connecting everything and blah, blah, blah. You can skip the line. Now, on the best side, you actually maximize the return on investment. So now it is a balance of, am I very strapped on cash? Or do I want to maximize the amount of results that I get? I'm hoping you're looking for the latter. And if that is the case, then I'm going to present to you in this video all of the tools that we use and all of the workflows that we have internally. But if you do want to go the first route, you want to go the easy route for now, and then later on complicate things further and make them better, then the tool that I would actually suggest as an all-in-one tool would be Instantly AI. Now, the reason why I suggest Instantly is because they'll do everything. They will help you find companies, they'll help you find people, they'll help you find contacts, they'll help you find phone numbers, and you are able to add your email accounts in there. You're able to launch everything, or if you're doing a LinkedIn outbound, you just export all of the list from the lead finder, and then you're going to be all right. So that is a tool that I would use if I was only using one. And I've considered a lot of tools. I've considered Apollo. I've considered all sorts of competitors and other tools that could do this. I would still stick with Instantly AI. If you're curious on how to use Instantly AI, I'll shamelessly plug a video that I've recorded showing exactly the backend of our Instant AI setup. The link is going to be in the description. Feel free to check that out. Now, let's rock on. Let's move into it. First of all, we need to understand the lead generation process from a macro perspective, get a bird's eye view so that once we go narrow and we start looking at these things one by one, we actually understand how it falls under the grand scheme of things. So first of all, this is going to look like a funnel always. And it will start with finding qualified companies. It will then go into identifying the right people within these companies, to then getting a ton of valid emails, to then cleaning all of the data, making sure it's good and ready to go live. And then this is a bonus I'm going to share with you in this video. You can get personalization worthy data to add to your scripts, whether it's for cold DMs, for cold email, or even if you're cold calling, you can mention these pieces of data to make your call more relevant and seem better researched. Now, let's come back to finding qualified companies. What does this actually mean? This means that we are now looking to get a huge top of funnel with companies that are qualified and that meet our ICP, ideal customer profile. And we want to filter them by specific things to make our segmentation better. Now, the reason why I want to make our segmentation better is because the more specific you get overall, the better the results that you tend to get from cold outbound. And so we're filtering for things such as headcount, location, how long they've been in business, what kind of industries do they target, what kind of services do they offer. And furthermore, have they received funding recently? Have they acquired another company recently? Have they been acquired? ETC. These are all filters that we implement on the top of the funnel to find qualified companies. We're going to talk more about that in a second. I'll show you the tools. I'll show you everything. But now let's just stick to the funnel first, and then we jump in. The next thing that we're going to get then, and this is always going to keep being a narrow down. The further down the funnel that we go, the less and less data that we find, just due to some people or some companies not putting that much information out there for you to gather. And so it will be limiting the amount of rows that you get in each of these steps. And I say rows because you're building a lead list. Okay. So identifying the right people. This is actually not as easy as it sounds. Most people would think, hey, let me just find a bunch of decision makers. And they would assume that that would be founder, owner, CEO, etc. But the thing that we notice the most is that if you're going after bigger companies, perhaps going after the biggest title in the company isn't necessarily the best move. Sometimes you want to go after a head of partnerships position or a director of partnerships position. Or sometimes you want to get someone lower down in the company to get an introduction up. Or the other way around, you want to get an introduction from the top all the way to another position at the bottom. And that is the way that you get your way or you get your foot through the door. And so identifying the right people is all about identifying the right titles. And that might be with the following filters. Filter number one, what are their skills? For example, you're selling media buying, you may want to contact CMOs or paid media buyers or etc. And so talk to someone that will actually understand your language and is more likely to refer you up to a founder, CEO, or etc. So that is one of the ways that you can do this. The other way you could possibly do it is by looking at how long someone has been in a company, what have been their endorsements, what are the exact what was their previous position like, so that you can make a relevant comment about it. By the way, that is a fantastic list that you can run. If you ever worked for a big company, let's say Google, you perhaps want to consider targeting every other ex-Google employee that is now a founder. That is a very good intro line that makes your segmentation very, very strong and is able to actually increase your reply rate on this campaign. So consider that. Now, the next thing is getting a ton of valid emails. Now we want to combine and blend all of the tools as much as possible to maximize our content coverage with multiple verification methods. I'm going to show you this in depth in a second. Next one is going to be cleaning the data. If you're going to add any of this data to a cold outbound DM or a cold email script, you will want it to be formatted in a way that can actually be uploaded. And then, as I mentioned before, we can get personalization worthy data. So let's get into finding qualified companies. Again, our goal is to have a huge top of funnel. This is the most important thing. Why? Because it's very cheap for you to run a tool that checks companies against your ICP, ideal customer profile. And I will show you the exact automation that we run ourselves. And also I will shamelessly plug another video of mine once again, which was a video recorded on the top 7 automations we have in our agency that automate lead generation. And there I will show you in depth every single step of our automation. But just for the sake of this video, I'm just going to give you a quick sneak peek into our automation. But if you want to see more details, please check out this other video that I just mentioned. So here is the automation that I was mentioning to you. It's actually very simple. First step is we're going to open the website of the company and get all of the content using an AI called JINA AI. And then we're going to move over to OpenAI and use an assistant to refine what is the services or what are the products or what are the categories that these companies falls under. And then we're going to have another OpenAI assistant come in and check if that is within the ICP that we want in this specific list. And then it's going to output back into the spreadsheet if it is valid or not valid. Also on top of this, we run one more automation that actually checks if this company has a valid website and if it has a max records, meaning that it can even receive cold emails if we're sending cold emails. So I'm going to just give you a quick sneak peek into that one as well. And here we go. This one is actually simpler than the one before. All it does is open the website with the proxy. Again, I'm not going to show you the nodes. If you want to see them, check out the previous video recorded. But I'm going to open the website, see if it loads. And then I'm going to use Google's free API to check the max record to see if one, they have an MX record, and two, they have a good MX record. Because there are MX records out there that are literally created just to filter spam, like the emails that you're probably sending. So therefore, you need to keep an eye out for those. And by the way, before we get back into the video, this is our lead gen commando. This is where we do everything lead generation wise. In our company, this is the automation that triggers all of the other automations for every single list and put our lead generation on autopilot. We don't actually have to lift a finger in order to get lists done. All that we do is just give this the criteria of our list and it does the rest. So anyways, if you want to see this automation working, drop a comment down below. I'll be happy to record a video showing exactly how our lead gen commando actually works. Now, back to finding qualified companies. We want to combine as many tools as humanly possible in order to get the best results. So here are some of the tools that we recommend using and why use each of them. The first one, you probably already guessed, would be Apollo.io. I know you've seen it somewhere. I know you already probably have an opinion about Apollo, but let me tell you, Apollo is still a fantastic tool. The only downside you may have with Apollo is that sometimes you will find data that is no longer fresh. So for example, some companies may have run out of business, may no longer be offering their services, or the people inside these companies are no longer working there, or they have retired, etc. And the data will still be in Apollo, because Apollo is not a real-time scraper. It is a database. So that is one of the downsides. But as long as you have an ICP checker like the one I just showed you, you're completely fine. You can always just use that, filter out the companies you don't want, and continue to push. So Apollo is the first one, and I do recommend Apollo. I do like their data overall, not for emails, but to find qualified companies. The next one is going to be Crunchbase. Crunchbase specifically helpful if you're going after SaaS companies or if you're looking for data such as company acquisition, funding, and etc. So it is a fantastic platform. We use it very often, and we do recommend it as well. The next one is if you're scraping local businesses such as law firms, such as cleaning companies, such as hotels, and etc. For that, we use Google Maps Extractor, but not any Google Maps Extractor. We use Clay's Google Map Extractor because it is automated, right? So we can just go on Clay, click on Find Companies from Google Maps, and then plug in our criteria, and it will scrape everything within seconds. If I were not using Clay, I would be using SerperDAV or Google Maps Extractor, which is a Chrome extension that you can also install to help you get this type of data. But Clay is our favorite, and it's our go-to. And the next one is if you want to find companies, might as well just go to the biggest B2B database on earth, which is LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, and by the way, some may argue that it's actually Google, whatever. But where it actually has a lot of data and is not just a search engine, that is going to be LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So LinkedIn Sales Navigator will help you find a lot of companies, but the only tricky part of using LinkedIn Sales Nav is coming up with a Boolean search or an overall search that is effective, right? That actually finds companies that are qualified and not a bunch of junk. And so you will have to play with AI to come up with the best Boolean searches, in my opinion. And then once you have that, you will have to extract this data out of LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which the tool that I recommend for that is called Vayne, Vayne.io. Okay, you can look that up. And if you're using Vayne, then you're extracting all of the data from LinkedIn Sales Navigator for very cheap and very effectively without limits. Now, once you have extracted all of this data, you then need to ICP check with the automation that I showed you just a few minutes ago. And the last one, of course, I couldn't get by without mentioning it, which is PandaMatch. PandaMatch is one of our favorite tools. It does what is called an AI lookalike, which pretty much what it means is very simple. Let's say you've worked with a company called Dell. Okay, you work with Dell. Now, if you want to find companies similar to Dell, you plug them into PandaMatch, and PandaMatch will find Microsoft, it will find Apple, it will find Huawei, it will find other companies that also sell similar products to Dell. And so it is a very effective tool if you're running specifically case studies, segmented cold email campaigns. Okay, so bear that in mind. Strongly recommend PandaMatch. And once again, you want your ICP verify everything with the automation like the one I showed you in the video. And if you want to see more of that one, check the video down below in the description. Now, let's move on. Now, how do we identify the right people at these companies? First, let's look at our goal. Our goal is to only get current, relevant people, okay, that can actually reply to us, that are still in the company and are not retired. So we need to filter out, very obviously, anyone that is retired, anyone that is no longer working in the company, or anyone that has a fake profile. It's extremely important, and this step is crucial for ensuring that your outreach reaches active decision makers who can actually respond to your offers. Super important, and the automation that we use for this process is actually very simple. What we're going to be doing is first getting all of the people and then ICP checking. So to get all of the people, the main automation that we use is called Claygent. It's an AI agent from Clay that has the ability to open websites and crawl the website until it finds the decision maker or the person that you're looking to find. And then it returns this person's name and their profile. So Claygent is absolutely fantastic. By using Claygent, we get on average 20 to 30% more data than any other provider is able to get us. And so we strongly recommend considering Claygent as well. Then the other option that we always use paired with Claygent is LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and this is for advanced filtering and overall verification. Bonus once again, if you want to extract the data from there, use Vayne, Vayne.io. Okay? Now, how do we check if the data that we got is actually relevant? For the data from Claygent, we don't check. That's completely fine. And mainly because we usually don't find these people on LinkedIn or anywhere that we could triple verify them. But for the data from Sales Navigator, we actually use a tool called LeadMagic.io. And this tool is able to pull for the cheapest price all of the data within profile, put that in a JSON format, and then we give that to our AIs to analyze if it is within our ICP and if this person is still in the role and they're not retired and etc. And also, extremely important, check if it is not a fake profile. So we do all of that from LeadMagic plus ChatGPT 4.0. If you want to see this automation, strongly recommend that you check out the video, again, link down in the description. Now, let's get into the next step, which is getting valid emails and cleaning the data. First, we want to get all possible emails. This idea that you can just use one tool such as Apollo or ZoomInfo or Crunchbase to get all of your data is extremely outdated. And you should instead be using all of the vendors at once. And the reason for that is because there is no extra cost in doing so. If you actually factor in how much more data you get and how much bigger your ROI is going to be, and even if you're using tools such as BetterContacts.Rocks, which is able to do waterfall enrichment with 15 plus vendors, then the cost is still lower than Apollo. And so it still makes sense as long as you have LinkedIn profiles to plug into the tool to store this waterfall enrichment. Okay. But if you don't want to use Better Contacts or Full Enrich, which are the two tools that we recommend for waterfall enrichment, you could also automate everything with an auto-deployed NADEN server. Let me explain. NADEN is an automation tool such as Zapier or Make, but the only difference is that it's also able to run low code natively. And if you self-host, meaning if you take NADEN and you install it in a server that you purchased, a server being a computer you rented, okay? And if you install it there, now you no longer pay per action run or per workflow execution or workflow execution time. All you pay for is the server and the softwares that you're using inside NADEN. So I can use NADEN instead of writing code or instead of using Make or Zapier where I have to pay per action. What I'm going to be doing is just plug it into my server, let it run, and make all of the magic happen. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what ours look like. Here we go. This is our waterfall enrichment base. I'm not going to explain this one in this video. This is just a machine that keeps on shooting to my waterfall enrichment automation in batches. If you want to see more about that, check out the video down below. But here's our waterfall enrichment automation. This is our general one, meaning the one that we tend to use for most of our clients whenever I'm not going industry specific. If I'm going industry specific, I'm going to use very specific tools. For example, there are certain combinations that work better in SaaS, some combinations that work better to scrape agencies, and other combinations that are better to scrape law firms. If you're curious, by the way, to know which is the best for your industry, you're more than welcome to drop a comment down below, and I'll tell you the tech stack that I would use in your specific case. But this is our general automation. So what it does is first, it checks the data I already have with Million Verifier to see if it's valid. It then checks Prospeo, then checks FindyMail, and it then checks LeadMagic. This is our just general automation, generic as hell, that we run for every client when we don't want to set up a new waterfall enrichment automation for them. But for industries like law firms, industries like agencies or SaaS or etc, we already have specific scrapers with a specific tech stack that gets us the best data very quickly and for the best price. Now, again, if you don't want to create all of this yourself, you have the option of using BetterContacts or Full Enrich, or a final option, which would be using Clay, which is a fantastic tool. If you haven't heard of Clay, definitely check out the videos I have on my channel about it. It is the most powerful spreadsheet on earth, in my opinion, where every single column can be a tool and an action executed for you. So for example, you can go on Clay, you can create a column where you have all of the LinkedIn profiles that you've gathered, and another column where it takes the LinkedIn profile and it waterfall enriches with FindyMail, and the next column with Prospeo, and the next column with LeadMagic and etc. So all you need to do in Clay is just plug in data in one side and it gets done in the other without you having to know any code at all. And so Clay is a fantastic tool when it comes to helping you do this type of steps. The only downside perhaps would be cost. If the cost is not within your budget, you can consider the other options I've shared with you. If the cost is within your budget, I strongly recommend doing everything in Clay. Okay? It's a fantastic tool. We will streamline all of your processes. Very easy to delegate to your team and very easy to scale with Clay. So that is how we get all possible emails. Now, how do we clean all of this data? Now that we've got companies, now that we've got the people inside these companies, and we've got all of their possible contacts, we now want to clean the data. Okay? And cleaning the data is all about formatting things that need to go in the script. If you're not going to add anything from your lead list apart from the email or the phone number to or not the phone number, just the email to a script, then you don't need to do this step. But if you're adding things like first name, company name, perhaps location, perhaps position title, you need to first clean all of this data. The best way to do so is again with an automated, self-deployed N8N server that is using ChatGPT to do it for you. Strongly recommend that you fine-tune your ChatGPT, which means that you provided training, which means that you provided examples of lists that you've cleaned before. And if you don't have any, you can ask ChatGPT to generate one for you that you give it as training nonetheless, okay? And this will remove all of the duplicates from your list. We'll check the lead list against your do not contact list, meaning list of clients or companies that you do not want to contact or unsubscribe lists. And then it will standardize the format so that you can add it to a cold email campaign. Now, what happens if you're looking for phone data and not email data? My honest recommendation as someone that doesn't do cold calling myself, but that has clients that do, is that you consider using TitanX for the waterfall enrichment of phone numbers and validation of phone numbers. And if you want to use more vendors, I'd recommend FindyMail, Prospeo, RightBound, and ZoomInfo. So that will all depend on your budget. And once again, I am not someone that cold calls. I just know a lot of people in the industry that do this, and they do it very successfully, primarily with TitanX. So I'll put a link down in the description if you want to check that out. Now, let's move on. How do we validate all of this data? If you're talking about phone numbers, to finish off the thought, the only way you could possibly validate is by calling them. And that is something that TitanX can do for you, but that's not, again, my bread and butter. My bread and butter is email. And for email, the way that you can validate your data is by using tools that will cross-check these emails. There are only 3 tools that we use to validate our emails, which are UseBouncer or LeadMagic or Instantly AI. And those 3 have consistently gotten us the lowest bounce rates possible and the best deliverability possible and the best cleanup of bad and toxic emails. By the way, if you don't know what a bounce is when an email doesn't exist and the server reports back to you saying that you've hit a bounce, and that can hurt your deliverability, which is your ability to land in the primary inbox. Okay, so we use these tools. We use them to verify catch-alls. If you don't know what a catch-all is just a server that has a rule to forward whatever email comes in to an inbox that you don't know which one it is. And so you want to validate if that email is actually going to the right person. And the tool that does that for you is Instantly AI. And I strongly recommend using them for that. Now, one thing I haven't spoken too much about recently is the reason why we use UseBouncer over Million Verifier a lot of times. And the only reason for that is because UseBouncer checks a database called Blackbox, where they cross-check all of the toxicity of emails. So for example, if there is an IP or there is a person, a specific email address that reports a lot of people as spammers and Blackbox catches them, they'll be listed there and you can remove them from your lead list. Overall, that's a fantastic practice and it will reduce your spam complaint rates by a lot. So we like using UseBouncer in this specific case. Now, let's get towards a bonus. How do we personalize all of our campaigns and how do we get personalized data? First, we need to gather personalization data, and the goal is to add non-cringe and overall personalized lines or data that makes someone feel like, oh wow, how do they know that? Right? And you don't get that by extracting just a LinkedIn profile. You get that by extracting, for example, predict leads, which extracts data such as when a company was acquired, when it acquired another company, when they were recruiting for a specific role that's relevant to your offer, and etc. Other sources of great personalization data would be podcasts. So you're grabbing the podcast transcript, having AI take out the best lines and transform that into a personalized line. Now, there is a lot of ways you can do this. And my honest recommendation is that you take all of these good data sources and apply a fine-tuned ChatGPT on them. ChatGPT or Claude Sonnet. Okay. Those are the two that I would consider using for personalization. And then it would generate these personalized lines for you based on your script, based on your industry, and based on your offer. If you want to see the exact flow that I run on this, it is actually all built on Clay, leveraging Claygent to get Claygent is once again the Clay agent, AI agent, and it leverages that to get personalized lines for you, and then it writes the personalized lines with ChatGPT. I've recorded another video showing you exactly how the workflow works, and the link is going to again be down in the description. Feel free to check that out. And just to finish it off, again, the tech stack or the two recommendation here would be Clay with predict leads with the Claygent and a fine-tuned GPT bot or Claude Sonnet if you want to use an alternative of ChatGPT. Now, I'll be honest, we are now doing a lot of tests with an AI called Perplexity, and it might be the one that will be replacing all of our other AIs very soon. But if that is the case, I'll be recording a YouTube video on it. Now, I hope that you found a lot of value in this. I hope that you know exactly how to execute from here. If you don't know, I'd recommend giving this video to someone you trust to build these automations for you, or just contact me. The link to contact me is going to be down in the description as well. I'm more than happy to help you. And I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good one.